Life Over Coffee. Conversations for transformation.
Hello everybody, my name is Rick Thomas and this is Life Over Coffee. In this episode, it is 450, that's how you would find it at lifeovercoffee.com. I want to talk about how to talk behind someone's back. How to talk behind someone's back is a relevant topic for all of us, but it also has several biblical layers. There is a way to share things about other people while guarding your heart as you are sharing things, and also the character of the person that you're talking about outside of their presence. So what I want to do is to address the right and the wrong of talking about other people, but also want to lay out a plan to address the person that you're talking about to help them to change if that is what needs to happen with the individual that you're talking about. You see, the question is, what is the point of talking about someone behind their back if you're talking about a situation or a person that needs to change? Why are you doing it? Well, I would assume that you're talking about them because you want to enact a plan for them to change. That would be the only reasonable point to talk about somebody critically. And so I want to talk about why it's okay to talk behind their back. And then I want to lay out a plan of how to do it that I trust will lead to a redemptive opportunity between you and them. But before I get into that plan, I do want to lay out some preliminary thoughts. And the first one is a common dilemma that people have when we talk about this subject. And let me say it this way. It's impossible to live in this world and not talk about other people outside of their presence. And so my hope as we work through this, that it will not be a dilemma any longer, that you will be biblically comfortable with talking about people behind their back. Please listen to the modifier, biblically. We can talk about people the wrong way, but we should be biblically comfortable talking about people outside of their presence. If you have been talking today, you probably mentioned the name of someone who was not part of the conversation. It could be a friend's name. Maybe it was somebody in your church, your local church, maybe a person in your community that you were talking about. Parents have this conversation all the time in their bedrooms, for example. They're talking about their children, and their children are not privy to that conversation. It is okay. By the way, children talk about their parents too, and I trust that children talk in a redemptive fashion. Maybe you talked about a celebrity. You watched a movie and you didn't like the movie, or maybe you did like the movie and you're telling someone about it. I'm going to guess here. Just let me speculate that the actor in the movie was not in that conversation. Perhaps a sports figure. Your team won the game and you're so excited about what the quarterback did, or you lost the game and the season is over and you have to wait another 8 months before you can watch your sports team again. And so you had some things to say about the quarterback. We do this all the time. And then, of course, there are politicians. I will not talk about that. They are easy targets, obviously. My point here is it is impossible to live in this world and not talk about other people, which leads to my second point, and that is the motive. As you become biblically comfortable talking about other people, which I hope that you do, behind their backs, then the most important thing for you to address is the motivation. What is the motivation of your heart when you talk about people who are not in the conversation? It's okay to do it, but why are you doing it? The motivation of your heart is a watershed issue, and it will send you in a biblical direction or some other direction, which could possibly be a sinful direction. And so you have to address, what is the point? Why am I saying this about that person who is not here listening to what I am saying? Which leads to point number 3. A good verse for this conversation. I'm going to use Ephesians 4:29, 1, because you probably are familiar with it, but it really comprehends all that I want to say here. Paul said this, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths. And so that's important. Now that's going to give us parameters. Now he is not saying that you shouldn't talk negatively about other people. He's just saying that let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths. Let's say that Biff was caught in a bear trap. That is a negative situation. And you don't know anything about bear traps, and you don't know how to medically treat someone who's been caught in a bear trap. And so you talk about Biff caught in a bear trap. That's a negative conversation that you're having. You're talking about a dire situation where something needs to change. That whole situation needs to change, and Biff needs help. He is caught. Well, that's not corrupting talk. It's negative talk, but it's not corruptive. Well, Paul said in Galatians 6:1, if anyone is caught in a transgression, you who are spiritual, restore them in a spirit of gentleness. The word caught there is a metaphor for like being caught in a bear trap. And so whether a person is physically caught or spiritually caught, there's a good chance you're going to have a conversation about that with someone. And you could have that conversation outside of Biff's presence. Just make sure there's no corrupting talk that comes out of your mouth, but only such is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. Our communication is building up the other person or building up their reputation. It's not diminishing them in some way. So as you talk about negative things that are going on in people's lives, you do it in a non-diminishing way, a building up way, which has redemption in mind, because that is the motivation of your heart. Point number 4, I'm using the word accountability or accountable. I think it would be humble and wise for you and me to speak with someone about how they hear us. The concern is not so much any episodes of offensive speech, sinful speech. I mean, if there is, we most definitely want to repent of any episodic moments where we have gossiped or slandered someone. But the real thing that I'm getting at here is, how would your friend characterize your speech patterns? I think it would be a good conversation this coming Sunday in your local church is, if you have a close friend, and say, hey, how do you generally hear me when I talk about other people? That could be a wonderful opportunity for you to strengthen your relationship with that person, and maybe an opportunity to change. And so these are a few preliminary thoughts. 1, it should not be a dilemma anymore. 2, what is the motivation of your heart? 3, there is a good verse for this, Ephesians 4:29. And then 4, it would be excellent just to pause and seek some accountability and have this conversation with someone. And now I want to move on to, if you're going to talk behind someone's back, which I say it is okay with certain rules in play, what is the process of doing that? And I want to lay out 4 sequential steps, and I trust this would serve you. The first step is, who do you talk to? And that's an excellent question. I mean, if you're going to talk behind somebody's back, who is the person that you are going to talk to? Now, I won't be able to answer that question fully for you, but I will share with you how I do it. There are 2 particular people that I will talk to most consistently about things, especially if I'm talking about somebody and I need advice, I need counsel. The first one is my wife, Lucia. I talk with her about other people more than anybody else. But when I say that, that doesn't mean that the barn door is just flung wide open and there's no filter on my words or on my mouth at all. The truth is, I don't share counseling information with Lucia, but probably not for the reason that you're thinking. Most people would hear that and think, well, he's talking about confidentiality. Not really. Actually, Lucia appealed to me many years ago that she just doesn't want to hear some of the stuff that I hear on a daily and weekly basis. See, if you know her, then Lucia has a particular kind of soul. And I learned this early on, that when we were dating, that she is built in such a way that there's just certain things that doesn't serve her. It doesn't serve her soul. It amps up her soul noise. And she doesn't have the capacity or the desire to just keep collecting garbage. She told me, she said, Rick, I have enough junk to deal with in my own life, and I just don't want to, take on other people's stuff too. One of the reasons that, people say, well, does she do counseling? No, not in that way, a formalized biblical counselor, because it's not good for her soul to do that. She does discipleship all the time. But again, I have to do pollution control with her at her request. And so I want to screen the contaminants that could increase Lucia's soul noise. It's like having a filter on a computer. You see, it's not about hiding something, but it's about filtering something. It's not about hiding things from her, but about caring for her soul. And so sometimes I ask her things, but it is carefully curated things for the reasons that I have just mentioned. And so I talk freely with her, but carefully curated things. And the reason that I talk to her about other people is because, well, I'm not omniscient. That would be one. Two, she is a trusted confidant. She's another set of eyes and another set of ears. And I fully trust her and her opinions. She sees things differently from me. I call it leveraging my assets. She is a wonderful asset, and I want to leverage that asset and use it in redemptive ways. I trust that I'm an asset for her, and she leverages me too. But when I leverage my assets, it assures a better solution. And so one of the people that I talk to about others is my wife, but with all of those caveats. And so it's carefully curated content. And the goal is a redemptive solution for the person that I'm talking about. Now, there's another person that I would talk to as well, and that would be a mentor type person, someone who has expertise in the particular issue that I'm talking about, someone who is a little farther down the road. But I resist discussing things about others with horizontal relationships that aren't a part of the problem. And that's what you want to guard against too, meaning that you don't blab to everybody. And so you carefully select the people that you talk to, people who actually can be part of the solution, and they can help you to think about what you hope to accomplish in the person that you're talking about. But neither the mentor nor the horizontal relationship are part of the problem, but the mentor is trustworthy. He has discretion. They have competency. The mentor has courage. And so it's someone that's outside of the problem, not a part of the problem. And they have the ability to be able to speak into it and help me. And so point number one, who do you talk to? Those are two people that I talk to, and you'll have to, think through and make the application that you need for your situation, because of course it would be slightly different from mine. And so who do you talk to? All right, so number two is guarding hearts. Now, I talked about this briefly with carefully curated content as I talked to my wife, but you want to guard your spouse. You want to guard your mentor against thinking poorly of the person that you're talking about. You want to ensure that they don't struggle with the information that you give them. Now, I realize I touched on this when I talked about carefully curated content, but I wanted to make guarding hearts a particular category, so it kind of spills out to point number one, who do you talk to? You see, I hear things in counseling that I must die with, because the junk just doesn't serve my wife and it doesn't serve other people. But not only are you guarding the heart of your, in my case, my spouse or a mentor, you want to guard the reputation of the person that you're talking about. You see, we are the body of Christ. And it's just not wise to spread a person's sin among the body of Christ. I mean, the person may repent. Let's say that you work through this process that I'm laying out for you. You talk behind their back, you gather information from your spouse or your mentor. In a few moments, we're going to engage this person, and I'll talk about how to do that. And let's say that the person actually repents, but you have shared this information with the world. You put it on social media. There will be people that will never hear the rest of the story. And because of that, they will always consider this person as the sinner with a specific problem. And so, point number 2, after you determine who you're going to talk to, you want to guard their hearts. You want to guard the reputation of the person that you're talking about. You want to do this redemptively, and your motivations are as pure as they can be. And then, point number 3, we want to move on to the person that you're actually talking about. How to help the sinner is how I titled it. Was it a sin? I mean, really, are we talking about a sin? Maybe you could ask this question: do you have clear biblical sin categories? Another way to think about it is, was it a big sin or a small sin? Now, what I mean by that, there are some sins that you have to deal with. Let's say that you just found out that your friend has committed adultery. You can't ignore that. Let's say that there was sexual molestation of some sort. You can't ignore that. I would put that in the bucket of a big sin. But maybe it was a small sin. Well, if it was a small sin, let's say like gossip, was it an episode? Is this a pattern in a person's life? Is it possible to overlook the offense? These are all questions that you would have to ask. Parents are great at overlooking sins because they see the child's trajectory and they believe that this season will pass. There have been many seasons in our children's lives where they were doing knuckleheaded things, but we just didn't die on every mountain because we saw the trend line. We saw the trajectory. Sometimes it was just episodes, and those were easy to overlook. It wasn't a big thing. It wasn't like one kid hit the other one with a hammer. That would be a big sin. But they just got in a little tit for tat, got in a little argument. It was episodic, but it's not a pattern. It's not how they deport themselves on a daily basis. And so we can just move on from it. And so you want to think through, what are we talking about? Is it a sin? Do you have clear categories? Is it big, small, episode, pattern? Can you overlook it? And then, do you have the time? Do you have the context? Do you have the relational bridge to talk to this person? Do you have the competence to help this person? If anyone is caught in a transgression, you're spiritual. The goal is to restore them. And so as you think about this person that you're talking about, you do want to consider yourself. Do you have the time to take this on? Is it a pay grade higher than your ability? Perhaps you will talk to another person about this individual because you're going to encourage them to meet with this person because it's a bit over your head. Is the person in your local church? Are they in your sphere of influence? If you're going to engage them, then you're going to make sure that you have the time and the context and the ability to do it. You just don't want to confront them. Hey, you're sick. Or, hey, Biff, you're caught in a bear trap. But I don't know anything about bear traps. I don't know how to get you out. And then you just move on. Well, thank you for letting me know what my problem is and for not offering any help. And so you want to think about this as you engage the sinner, which is point number 3. And then finally, point number 4, and this is the rules of engagement. What would be your purpose? And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, motivation. Why are you talking about them? And then as you engage them, why are you talking to them? Now, the answers to both of those questions is the same. It's redemption. You're talking about them in a redemptive way, and you are engaging them for redemptive purposes. It's the most crucial purpose for engaging anyone that is sinning. And so the rules of engagement, number 4. First point is, what is your purpose? The answer is redemption. Number 2, are you trying to punish this person? You see, sometimes some folks that we engage, we do it in a punitive fashion because we're offended by them. Parents do this too. That child has done this thing one more time, and so we confront them, but we confront them in a punitive way, which goes back to what I've just been saying. If your purpose is not redemption, then I would recommend that you don't send that email right now. that you don't pick up the phone and talk to them, that you don't go to them and confront them. You want to make sure that your heart is fully prepped for the confrontation that you are about to have. I encourage people often that along these lines that if you were to read 1 Corinthians chapter 1, the first 9 verses specifically, you will hear Paul's heart for how he thought about these mean, conniving, stubborn, angry, malicious people, the Corinthians. And when you read those first 9 verses and put that in context of those 2 books, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Paul's heart was deeply affected by God, and he had much affection for these mean-spirited people. And so I trust that your goal in confrontation would be redemption, but you do want to ask the question, are you just punishing this person? That's why you were talking to others about him? And that is why you're talking to him? Well, that is what Paul was talking about when he said, let no corrupting speech pour forth from your mouths. And so are you trying to be punitive? Another question is, are you overprotective of your reputation when someone sins against you, so you engage when you should have overlooked it? Maybe someone gossiped about you, and because you crave for approval and acceptance and respect, that you're just sinning now because fear of man is just redlining because of what they said about you, when this is something that you could overlook and you don't have to confront them. Now, this happens, I think, on social media often, where someone says something to you or about you, and it's something critical. I mean, I hear that all the time, and I have to mentally talk to myself. Resist. Don't respond to a fool. Let it go. This will pass. Sometimes we can be overprotective of our own reputations because we struggle with fear of man. And so then we engage on social media, or we engage this person when really we just should have shrugged it off and moved on down the road, because you know what? If a person does something like that, in many cases, there's really nothing that you can do about it. And if it's not a close friend of yours to where you do have time and context and a relational bridge and the competency, if you have those things, then yeah, you could confront this and maybe help this person to stop doing it. But if it's a one-off thing that happens on, like, say, social media, just move on down the road. Don't be so overprotective and sensitive about your reputation. Do you struggle with the fear of man? Do you need the approval and the acceptance of others? Well, it would inhibit you from letting some things go, and it will make your engagement wrong-headed. Can you walk that person through the problem redemptively? Now, I mentioned this earlier. Do you have the time, the relational bridge? Do you have the context? And I said, do you have the competence? And I want to revisit that as I wrap up here, because that is significant. I mean, if you're going to confront a person, as I was saying earlier with Biff, hey, Biff, you're caught, and you don't have the ability to be able to help them redemptively, well, that is a problem. Now, perhaps you're in a place in your life, it's a good season for you, to where you want training to be able to walk people through things and confront and do some of the things that I've mentioned here. And if you recognize that there are some deficiencies in your ability to disciple other people, and if this is a good season for you, maybe this is a time for you to consider getting training. I think most of you know that we do have an all online, we call it our mastermind course. But what we do is we teach people how to do the work of, some say biblical counseling, we just call it discipleship. We teach people how to do the work of discipleship. And if this is a good season for you, because it's a 2 to 3 year program, depending on your pace. It is self-paced, so it really depends on the season of life that you're in. But as I've walked through some of these things and you see some deficiencies in your own life, you'd say, hey, I'd like to devote a season of my life to getting equipping, then I would encourage you to think about our mastermind program, or minimally, I mean, maybe there's something easier for you. We call it Leaders Over Coffee. These are people who support our ministry, and we have a private forum for them And they're not mastermind students, by the way. They're just leaders over coffee. They do life over coffee and they want to grow in their leadership skill. And so you could support us very minimally and you could participate on our forums and you can receive some outstanding training. And so I would encourage you to consider that if the mastermind program is a little bit too big at this time, and that's one of the reasons that we develop Leaders Over Coffee, so that people can support minimally but yet get world-class training. This is episode 450, How to Talk Behind Someone's Back. I trust that you know now that it's okay with all the appropriate caveats, and I hope you realize that if you're going to talk behind someone's back, that you make a game plan, as I've outlined here, so that you can help them, maybe change. We do talk about people behind their backs. And as we do this, we want to address, one, our motives for doing so. And if our motivations are as pure as it can be, and then we do want to determine further if there's more that we need to do for the person that we're talking about to someone else. Let me wrap up episode 450 with a couple of questions. Number one, it might prove a good exercise to work through the questions that I've the questions that I've asked you in these show notes. This is episode 450, and I would encourage you just to get the show notes. And there's a lot of questions that are embedded there. And if you just go through them and just spend some time, you can print it off. There's a print button at the bottom of that episode, and you can print off those show notes and then just use it, mark it up, write in the columns and answer those questions. And you can even use it in small group, print a copy for everyone, use it as a teaching lesson and work through those questions yourself. And of course, with a friend would be outstanding. Question number two, are you a gossip? If you are, then there needs to be a plan to change, including securing an accountability partner to help you. And then number three, would you think about the last few times that you talked behind someone's back? Did you have redemption in view? Was that the motivation of your heart? Were your motives as pure as they can be? I do daily messages on for our supporting community, those Leaders Over Coffee. I do a video 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And just recently I did a video on there's no such thing as pure motives, as far as pure being pure. At best, our motivations will have traces and taints of sin in them. And so I was trying to encourage them to be released from having perfect motivations for everything they do, because fallen people can't have 100% pure motivations. And so we want to relax a bit, but the real question is, are you really trying? I mean, are you trying to do the best that you can? And are your motivations are as pure as they possibly can be as you understand things now? I mean, you're either trying to do right or you're trying to do wrong. And so it's really about the general direction that you are heading. And so were your motives as pure as they could be when you were talking behind someone's back? Number four, how do you respond to someone who is gossiping to you? Do you struggle with fear of man, permitting them to continue to gossip to you? If so, I would encourage you to make a plan to change, because you have more than likely found yourself in that situation where someone was talking behind someone else's back and they were talking to you. And their motivations were not pure. And they did not have redemption in view. They were gossiping. They were slandering. And if you struggle with fear of man, the chances of you engaging them appropriately and biblically would probably be pretty slim. This is episode 450, How to Talk Behind Someone's Back. We have thousands of resources on our website, and I would encourage you to take advantage of it at lifeovercoffee.com. Our resources are free, and I don't say this a lot in these episodes, but if it's possible for you to support us, we would love to have your support. It takes a pretty good sized team to accomplish what we do. We work 40-hour weeks. There's a lot of people behind the scenes. We have a lot of peripherals. We have contractors who work for us, our web development person who keeps our massive website going, which is something that he works on every day. By the way, he works on the weekends as well because the website never shuts down, and so it requires ongoing, all the time maintenance. And we run maintenance on it 24/7. And there's so many other things that we do. It's an expensive operation, and our business model, if you want to call it that, is to give our product away. That's an unusual business model, but we trust the Lord to support this ministry. And if you're in a position to where you could support, I would just appeal to you to pray about that. Just ask God what he would have you to do. You can either support on a monthly basis or an annual basis, and you can be part of our Leaders Over Coffee. You can be on our private forums. Or if you're not interested in that and you just want to donate, you can donate. We're a 501c3, and you can donate at any pattern that you want, monthly, annually, or one time. And so you select. But we do need your support. And so if you can help in any way financially, I really would appreciate it, because we don't have a large overhead, but it's large enough. And we do need people supporting us so that we can continue to give this stuff away. And so if that's something that you could help with, I really would appreciate it. Episode 450, How to Talk Behind Someone's Back. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. Learn more and get access to other resources at lifeovercoffee.com.